It can be quite jarring if you don't. If that's not your thing, you could jump off there, double back, and go to the Pirate Treasure Museum. Inside the Pirate Museum, they have over 180 authentic pirate artifacts. All kinds of stuff. And Johnny Depp hand-delivered the sword from Pirates of the Caribbean to that location himself. So that's also pretty sweet. And they have the only known Jolly Roger flag to still be in existence. The pirate Jolly Roger's name was a derivative of the French words for very red, Jolly Rouge. Now you can tell your friends that looked like the clever one. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is our next stop. If you're exiting here, please exit to the right, utilizing uprights and handhelds as if you're backing down the ladder. This is the Colonial Quarter. And you guys hopping off back there, have a great day. The Charlie runs every 15 minutes. And the last one leaves the station at 4:30. Nobody on, nobody off. You guys know the name, you know the safety spiel. Unless we pick up somebody new, I don't feel the need to repeatedly hit you over the head with it. And I get tired of saying it in my sleep. Nobody on, nobody off. This is Charlie's promotion. Over to the left is our famous undefeated fort. If you're with me later in the tour, I will give her a proper introduction. See, she requires more attention than I can afford her at the moment. But if you look over to your left, the inlet that's on our bayfront did not used to be there. At one time, that was about 13 miles down the coast. The Army Corps of Engineers came in and dredged that out for us in the 40s. I'm guessing that it was the late 40s, because I think in the early 40s the Army had better stuff to do. And once again, this is my next stop, and there's a delivery truck in my stop. So I'll have to make the stop out here in the street. So for safety's sake, please make sure you exit to your right, utilizing your uprights and handheld as if you're backing down a ladder. Alright folks, nobody on, nobody off. Thank you for parking in my parking spot. This is Charlie's promotion. Next we're going down Hippolyta and St. George. These streets were narrow for a couple different reasons. One, it would funnel wind off the coast and drag it through the city like a natural air conditioning and ventilation system. For two, if you were an invading military force trying to take the city, this would be a nightmare to try to march your men to. From a tactical standpoint, this is what's known as a choke point or a kill box. It's definitely not where you want to be involved in a firefight. Now, if you look to the left and to the right of the street, they're good examples of Spanish colonial architecture. The difference is when Spain occupied this area, they didn't have glass in the windows and their doors led out the courtyard, not out to the street. You didn't want those invading military forces standing in your living room. Now, when the English took over the area, they put glass in the windows, doors leading out to the street, on some buildings split and second stories, and they probably brought some awful food with them. That's just an opinion. But down the street here to the left, the wooden upright bars on the outside of this business, those are good examples of what the outside of the Spanish windows look like. Behind those wooden bars, they would have cheesecloth or mosquito net, which would allow the smoke to escape and stop the critters from getting in. And ladies and gentlemen, this is our next stop. Please do not attempt to disembark until I come to complete stop and ring the bell. Once I've done so, you can exit to your left, utilizing your uprights and handhelds as if you're backing down a ladder. This is the location of the St. Photia Shrine, the oldest school museum, the pedestrian mall, and the taco shop that I am currently physically addicted to.
พาคนเดิน
ครับผมชมเมืองชมร้าน
And for those of you who just joined me, please welcome aboard. My name is Irish. It's lovely to see you today. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Keep your hands and feet inside the trolley while it's in motion. And please keep personal conversations as well as cell phone conversations to a minimum so that those around you can enjoy the tour. Nobody on, nobody off. This trolley is in motion. Over to the right there is the Columbia Restaurant. That is the oldest restaurant in Florida, and it's still owned by the same family that founded it, which is quite rare. Because you figured by now Disney would have bought them. And right now we're in the Menorcan quarter.
เป็นร้านอาหารที่เก่าแก่ที่สุดใน
However, when the turmoil began to belly up, the owners abandoned the Menorcans and their families. Father Pedro Camps rounded them up, marched them to this area where they flourished, and they are the reason why we are the oldest continuously occupied settlement in North American history. Now as we head towards Cordova Street, we're going to start talking about Henry Flagler. At one time, he was the third richest man on the entire planet. He owned Standard Oil out of Ohio, which is now Exxon and its subsidiaries. He owned Florida East Coast Railroad, and he also owned a bunch of hotels around this area. One of his hotels had a little piece of property sitting in front of it that was worth about $4,000 in the very late 1800s. That piece of property had an old leaky, rundown, beat-up wooden church on it, so we figured he would just approach the congregation and get them to sell. But upon approaching them, he realized they weren't having it. They said no. This is a word that Flagler was not used to hearing. So he exercised some finesse. He came over here to this part of town, built them a church worth an estimated $84,000, and he asked them if they wanted to just swap it out. They said something along the lines of, let us get our stuff packed. Because that's a Grace United Methodist Church you see in front of you. And it's lovely architecture. If you look at those archways and that tower, it's quite Gothic, like me in middle school. Everybody goes through their phases, whatever. Now, eventually the Baptists got word that Flagler was giving out churches like Halloween candy. They came knocking. They said, Henry, can we get a church? He said, yeah, no. Then they entered negotiations. He said, I'll tell you what. Save up $10,000. I'll give you the plot of land in which to build your church upon. They saved up those 10 G's. He coughed up the plot. And now it is the ancient city Baptist church. However, folks, there was one major stipulation. They were not allowed to have a bell in their bell tower. Not then, and not ever. Historians have mixed reasons about why he made this stipulation, but I think it's because he was kind of a snob and he liked to micromanage everybody. And I'll justify my opinion later in the tour. But first, in front of you, you see the ancient city Baptist church. The tower in the front of the church right there has the Nobel Prize. But it does have Lewis Comfort Tiffany glass windows, so that's looking at the glass half full. That's two terrible puns at one normal stop sign. Good morning. And as we turn down this road, things are going to get a little bit rough physically and emotionally. See, Ginny Louise was Flagler's daughter. She was like his best friend. She was giving birth to her own daughter, Marjorie, when complications arose, resulting in Marjorie's death. Ginny Louise then fell ill, and Flagler sent for her to come down to Florida East Coast Railroad to be on the mend with him here in Florida. However, she too died in the Carolinas. Flagler was absolutely heartbroken at the loss of his daughter and his granddaughter. So he wanted to build a church to memorialize them and to be their final resting place. He contacted a contractor. Said, I'll tell you what, you guys build me this church before the 1-year anniversary of my daughter's death, and I shall pay you a king's ransom. You come in just 1 day over that deadline, I'll pay you absolutely nothing. They came in 4 days under the deadline, folks, and might I say they did a fantastic job, because this place is absolutely
เป็นเชิ
beautiful,
ร์ชเหมือนกันนะ
especially for a place that was built in about 11 months. This is the Flagler Memorial Presbyterian
ใช้เวลา
Church.
สร้าง 11 เดือน
Jenny Louise is entombed here with
11 เดือน
arms wrapped in her arms.
เร็วมาก
Flagler and the love of his life are also entombed here. Flagler's son absolutely hated his guts. He is buried in New York. This is our next stop, folks. If you're exiting here, you'll be exiting to your right. Utilizing uprights and handhelds if you're backing down a ladder. All right, nobody's going, oh, there you go. I was about to jump the gun on that one. You guys have a fantastic day. Have a good day, guys. Nobody on, nobody off. This trolley is in motion. Now we're going to go by Flagler College. Before, this was a school. It was Flagler's flagship hotel, the Ponce de Leon. He incorporated the use of poured concrete taught to him by his friend Franklin Smith to build this and his other major hotel.
ปกติ
เหรอ
These are some of the first buildings in North America completely built out of poured concrete. This is also one of the first buildings in the entire world completely wired with electricity. If you see the smokestacks in front of us, that was the exhaust system. The 4 Edison generators that were located in this building. Those generators are now in the Smithsonian Museum because this place had electricity before the White House. The guests were so nervous about turning on and off those light switches, they had to hire workers to come in and do this for the guests. Sometimes these workers were kids and they were known as Sparkies. They were called Sparkies because those direct current switches were very unreliable. So that's a completely founded fear. Hopefully they made
เป็น
tips.
มหาวิทยาลัยที่มีไฟฟ้าใช้
Now, if
ที่
you
แรก
wanted
ใน
to
อเม
book
ริ
this
กา
hotel, you had to pay for the entire season, which ran from Christmas to Easter. Regardless of how long you actually intended on staying here. In the early 1900s,
เป็นมหาวิทยาลัยที่ใช้
$9,000
มี
to
ไฟ
book
ใช้
this
เป็น
place.
มหาวิทยาลัยแรกของโลก
Adjusted for inflation, that would be somewhere around $250,000 in today's money. Can't afford that for a hotel stay? Well, don't worry about it, because there is a loophole. All you got to do is be elected President of the United States of America, and you can stay here whenever you want. So that's completely obtainable. I'm going to be announcing my candidacy soon. I'm running on the platform that I am a crook. It's called transparency. That's right. 4 presidents took Henry Flagler up on that offer and stayed in the Hotel Ponce de Leon. This guy in front of me was in a big rush earlier. It's good to see that it worked out for him. The suspension's doing pretty good too. Looks like Uncle Buck's car. Now, if you look to your right, you see that dome-like structure that's protruding out of the back of the building. That is the former ballroom of the Ponce de Leon. Now it's a cafeteria for the students that attend school there. It is wrapped in 100% authentic Louis Comfort Tiffany glass. They say that that's a priceless amount of that glass, but guess what? The insurance company's found a price tag to hang on it. They value it at $135 million worth
เป็น
of
กระจก
glass.
นิรภัยเหรอ
ใช่เขาบอกว่าประมาณ
Hence the
25
reason
ล้านเห
it's
รียญกระ
surrounded
จ
in
ก
bulletproof
มันมีความพิเศ
plexiglass.
ษตรงที่ว่าไม่แตกไง
Now, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to start talking about Franklin Smith. He's the one that taught Henry Flagler about the poured concrete.
เป็นกระจกที่มีราคา
During
แพงที่
Smith's
สุดในโล
travels
ก
in Europe, he discovered the construction technique that's known as poured concrete. When he returned to North America, he had every intention of being the first man in North America to use poured concrete to build a home. Unfortunately, he fell behind schedule by about 2 or 3 days due to some inclement weather, and apparently somebody in Massachusetts just beat him to it. But I'll show you the house that he built when we get a little bit closer. Distance-wise, not emotionally. But first, down here and to your right, you're going to see a statue of the man himself, Henry Flagler. In my opinion, the statue really embodies his personality, because he's got one hand in his pocket holding onto his cash and he's staring at the bank. He's got his mind on his money and his money on his mind, folks. But over here to your left, this is the house that Franklin Smith built, the Villa Zareda. It's modeled after 1/8 of one wing of the Alhambra Palace in Spain. Now it is a museum with some pretty weird stuff inside of it.
สร้าง
They've got a
สร้าง
mummy.
มหาวิทยาลัยนี้
They've got a mummy's foot. I don't know what happened to the rest of them.
แฮร์รี่พอตเตอ
And
ร์
they've got a rug that's over 2,400 years old that was taken from an Egyptian tomb. And it's made entirely out of cat hair. Yummy, yeah. Apparently there was some Egyptian Cruella de Vil running around unchecked. I thought they all loved cats. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
อันนี้ก็เป็นมิวเซียม
this is our next stop, but I've been asked not to ring my bell here, so I shall oblige them. I'll give you a verbal cue when it's okay to disembark. I'm not that fond of the verbal cue,
ที่เราจะต้อง
but
เข้า
when I
ป่ะ
say it, you can exit to your right, utilizing uprights and handhelds as if you're backing down a ladder.
แต่เราไปรอบๆก่อนนั่งรถไป
อ่า
This is the Villa Zareda. Ding ding.
อันนี้ก็เป็นรถเช่านะ
เอารถเช่าเหรอ
เอ๊ะ
You guys have a great day. Yes.
that right?
And 2 more stops. Yes.
Great, perfect, okay.
She's on that distillery.
ตลกเนี่ยไอ้ตลก
So if you're going to distillery, can you just skip the next